In the last video, I made you a promise that I walk you through 3 essential decisions and a cohort table outlining a heat map. This promise starts now. If you're just joining the series, for quick context, in the previous video, I posed the question that keeps most of product builders or product owners up to the night. Do these people actually need what I'm building? To answer that, not solely counting retained user, but also analyzing how behavioral differences emerge across multiple groups of users over time is the more effective approach that matters known as cohort analysis. And more specifically, we look at the retention rather than acquisition. Retention plays a role as the engine of growth that amplifies all other metrics in your business through multiplier effect. I also introduced a great question for identifying a retention event when a customer truly gets value from your product. If you haven't watched the first video, this is a good reason to go back. But that's only discussed the theory of why cohort analysis matters. We haven't actually run one that, so that's the reason we have this video. You're going to clarify 3 key points. Those are essential foundational features to determine whether your cohort actually tell you something genuinely valuable or simply confirms what you already assumed. And we will build a cohort table together, applying a heat map that's make a point impossible to miss. And of course, I will show you how to interpret that curve, no more theory, the framework, step by step. So let's go. To build a single cohort that really answers for real questions in business, we need to make 3 decisions beforehand. Each one plays the role as the lens to determine which parts of customer story comes into focus. The first decision is how do you isolate a cohort? This is a lens through which you segment your customer. The most common choices: temporal isolation, the point in time when the customer first interacts with your product, whether through a first purchase or initial access. For instance, all customers first purchase in January from your January cohort, those in February from the February cohort, and so on. You can isolate by acquisition channel, geography, device, or platform, etc. A key insight that informs these decisions is the dimension you choose determine the question you can answer. This is essential a reverse engineering approach. If one dimension is easy enough to explain what you're saying, you can layer a second. Retention look weak in a new geography. Crosses with acquisition channel, work on mobile, crosses with subscription tier. X layer narrows the question until the answer becomes obvious. You start with the desired end state and work backwards to identify the isolation strategy needed to achieve that. The most crucial decisions of the 3 is what actions cause they are active. Remember valued movement, retention event, I mentioned before. The best action to be chosen is the one most correlated with a user getting real value from your product. The action signals with generally confident that a customer experienced what they intended to achieve through what you provide. A few examples to make this concrete. Instagram, scrolling a lit 3 post, not solely opening the app. The scroll is where value happens. Uber, completing a trip, not simple searching a ride. The trip is a promise fulfilled. That products using the core feature, not solely login in. Login is a door, the feature is a room. Similar to conducting the A/B testing, to make this decision is the progress of exploring the answer for if this action happened, can I be confident they got value? If yes, use it. If not, keep searching. The third decision is the time period you will use to measure retention. We determine the optimal periods based on your business model. Social or entertainment products can be daily, driven by habitual users. Utility tools can be quickly. E-commerce or SaaS product can be monthly. Travel or seasonal products might be quarterly. If you choose an interval, it measures too frequently, like in travel apps, measuring a daily retention, would look like disaster because users only book 2 or 3 times a year. This time frame must be divided and agreed upon by your team before anyone starts building. The decision ultimately lies in the answers for how does churn mean for your product, how many days of inactivity before a customer is categorized as gone, 7 day, 30 day, 90 day. Now, 3 decisions has made. You know who's gone in your cohort, what behavior you're tracking, what time frame you're measuring. 5 steps. I'll walk you through X1 3 approach simultaneously. Business approach, query combined with Looker Studio approach and Python approach. The reason I show you all 3 sequences, the tool doesn't change the thinking. Same framework, same mindset, same sequence. Whether you're writing SQL or writing Python, when you understand the logic, you can pick up any tool and apply it. So let's go. First step, identify your business question. Everything starts here. Before pulling any data, you need one clear question that determines what you're trying to figure out. For this walkthrough, our question is, how does monthly retention compare across subscriber acquisition cohorts throughout the 2025 fiscal year? That single question gives us everything we need to make 3 decisions. Cohort types is subscription cohort, grouped by when they first subscribe. Isolation dimension is time, monthly pocket. Active action is successful billing. Metrics are the retention rate and the number of retained users. Beyond subscription cohort, there are 4 types of cohort. Your frequency is covered. Customers cohort, grouped by first acquisition date. You've been asking, is my overall retention improving over time? Ordered cohort, grouped by first purchase date. The natural starting point for e-commerce. How often do first-time buyers return? With the gap between the first and the second purchase. Subscription cohort, grouped by subscription start date. This is our data set today. You were asking, at which month do subscribers typically cancel? Behavioral cohort, grouped by a specific action instead of a date. The most powerful for a product team. Those users who complete onboarding retain better than those who skipped it. For our walkthrough, we built a subscription cohort, measuring monthly and tracking successful billing for retention. Write your question down before moving into the second step. The useful cohort start here, not in the data. One thing you should be careful in this step is to distinguish between the quick question, how is our retention? And a strong question is, how does monthly retention compare across subscriber acquisition cohorts throughout the 2025 fiscal year? The stronger the question, the more insight cohort can bring to you. Now, news question is a tabulous A. There are actually have data to answer it. There are 4 key variables for every cohort analysis. 1, identity is for who this person. A unique ID consistently represents the same customer across every interaction, device, platform, time, event, or action. In this 4, what did they do? The specific action calls their active action. In our case, a successful billing. Other actions can be logged, air, playback, or side up, and so on. We need to know which field and value that represents the moment when a customer truly got real value. So we filter everything else out. Event status is the answer for, did it actually complete? In real world scenario, an action can have multiple statuses, which can be failed, refund, cancel, or successful. To get an accurate count, we solely consider a time that has completed. Therefore, we need to filter successful events solely. Event timestamp, the date or date time of when the action occurred. We assign customer to the cohort and measure the distance between periods. Second step is choose the right metric. Your business question tells you what to measure. There are 3 metrics cohort analysis used more often. Retention rate, the percentage of a cohort still active at that time period. This is the default and what we build today. Just when your question is about who stays, revenues per cohort, rather than tracking whether your customer returned, you're tracking how much they spend period by period. This gives you lifetime value curves rather than retention curves. Just when your question is about how much they worth over time. Churn rate, the inverse of retention. The percentage of a cohort stopped being active in act period, used when you are presenting to a stakeholder who think in terms of losses, or when your questions is about when and how fast you lose people. Start with retention rate. When you understand the retention picture, layer in revenues. Churn risk is the most useful when you push the problem front and center for a leadership conversation. For our walkthrough, retention calculated as the percentage of X monthly subscriber cohort that has at least one successful billing in X subsequent months. The third step is create your cohort segment and aggregate the metric. This is where actual technical work has been, where your active action became filtered on data, and your time period determine how to bucket it. The logic is identical across three approaches for operations in the orders. Assign X customer to cohort by their first qualifying event, label them with the time period as frozen, log their returns events, every subsequent qualifying event per customer, calculate the periods of set, how many periods after X cohort start X return occurred. Aggregate the metric. Our raw dataset consists of list of columns such as members ID, event types, event status, event timestamp, data for variables I mentioned at the end of the first step. This represents the behavioral history on our entertainment platform. Every event is logged against a specific member account. To assign X customer to cohort, in SQL, we need to find their first qualifying event. In other words, their earliest successful billing. We achieve this using mean event timestamp, partitioned by members ID, filter for event types is billing, and event status is success. However, as you can see, the format is date time, since our required time periods in monthly pocket. So we need to truncate this timestamp to the first of the month. This resulting date became our cohort label. In Python, we replicate this by filtering our data frame. We use transform means. This broadcasts subscriber billing date back across all their corresponding row. It effectively tags every transition with user origin date. Two periods converts the timestamp to monthly period. We search our final cohort label. In SQL, our subsequent event are stored at date time. To match our cohort label, we need to truncate those timestamps to the first of the month to identify every subsequent qualifying event per X customer at a monthly level. In Python, similarly, we use superior to convert those timestamps to monthly period, ensuring our return data align with our origin data. Calculate the periods of set. In SQL, they different with units in month. Calculate the gap in month between the cohort start and X successful billing. Period 0, the same month as first billing. Period 1 means 1 month later. In Python, we subtract cohort label from event month and convert this result into an integer. This gives us the monthly gap. We search our cohort column for the final visualization. Aggregate the metric. To determine the size of the cohort, we count the unique number of members present at the period 0. In SQL, we perform a count distinct members ID, filtering for month difference is 0, and grouping by a cohort first month. This established our baseline population. In Python, we use the number of unique function on the members IDs column, especially when month difference equals 0, and grouped by cohort first month to determine the number of retained users in subsequent periods. In SQL, now we have our baseline dataset. I will connect this dataset to Data Studio, formerly Looker Studio, to continue processing. To aggregate the number of retained members and the retention rate, I will connect Looker Studio to the query we saved previously. To his map pivot table, Row dimension is cohort first month. Format years month. Column dimension is month difference. When it comes to metric, the unique count of members ID to show the number of retained user. Divide the unique count of member ID by average of cohort types. Try the retention percentage. We use average due to row duplication in the baseline dataset. In Python, the number of retained user achieving by using the number of unique functions on the member's ID grouped by cohort first month. And then we join with the cohort style to complete a cohort base. Next, we use pivot table with index a cohort first month, month difference, retention rate to show the retention percentage. At the end of step 3, regardless of your tool, we have the same thing. A table where every row is one cohort period combination with the number of retained user or the retention rate, same output, same shape, same meaning. Now the paper visualization. In Looker Studio, we already have the heat map pivot table. We enable set up the conditional formatting on our retention metric, outline color range or color theme. To see the trend over time, we use line charts to draw the retention curve. We set the month differences on the x-axis and use a cohort first month as our breakdown dimension. And plot calculated retention rate. This gives us a line for the cohort, showing exactly how X group will changing. In Python, to achieve the same result, we use heatmap. It's like our pivot metric directly, mapping cohorts to the y-axis and the monthly gap to the x-axis. We apply the color gradient map from 0 to 100% rate. For curves, we look through pivot table and use plot to draw a line for every cohort. Every line is different cohort. Every line tells a different story. Whether you're in Looker Studio or you're with a notebook, the heatmap reads the same. The inside is the lead-in software is lead in the Python. Now, let's move to the parts of how to read it. Final step, identify patterns and take action. The chart is built. Now we read it. The step works the same way regardless of how you build it because we're reading the same shapes of data. There are 3 directions to read a cohort chart. X, answering a different question. Horizontal, read left to right along one row. This is the story of a single cohort over time. How fast does this drop up? What is the deepest decline that the curve eventually flatten? This tells you where you're losing people in the customer life cycle. Vertical, read from top bottom down, one column. This compares different cohorts at the same life cycle point. What percentage of active cohorts still active at the month 3? If a column gets darker going down, your more recent cohort is retaining better is the progress. If it gets lighter, something degrading over time. Diagonal, read across the table at the 45-degree angle. A diagonal slide shows or customer still active at the same calendar month, regardless of when they joined. Is a diagonal show a sudden uniform drop, something external happened that month, a price change, a platform issues, a macroeconomics event. One default pattern, the action list is the same across all 3 approach. Identify the life cycle points or the cohort drop anomaly, or where the drop is steepest. Have a test. What changed for subscriber at that exact point. The price change, the price increase, the competitor launch, the payment method issues, and events. Decide the target response. A pre-cancellation offer, a planned downgrade option instead of full cancellation. A content suggestion, push the low engagement subscriber. Measure with the next cohort. Compare the post-intervention cohort against the pre-intervention cohort at the same life cycle age. Does the curve move? Repeat. The cohort framework isn't one-time analysis. This is the measurement layer of every improvement you make. Let's bring it together. We came into this video with a question from last one. Do these people actually need what I'm building? And no way to measure the answer. Now we have both. We lock in 3 decisions before touching any data. You define which lens to group your subscriber by, what action signal they generally got value, and which time periods matched how your products is actually used. The 3 decisions are what separate a cohort, tell you something real from one just confirm what you already assumed, and then you build it by step. The same framework, whether you're working in any query engines or in Python, the same logic, same sequence, different tools in your hand. Builds using a heat map lets you see the entire picture as one, and a retention curve that shows you the story of X cohorts over time. And here's a single thing I want you to remember from this video: 3 decisions before you build, 5 steps, 1 table, 1 curve, and the shapes of the data tell you much more about your business, especially when it comes to customer lifecycle. Hope that you can gain some actionable takeaway to apply your own cohorts. Best of luck. Goodbye for now.